All right, I'm gonna introduce you real quick. And all right, what's going on out there, YouTube? This is SCL0320 representing JVS. I got a man here, Lucas. Lucas normally with most of the screenings that I do go to, he is always there. I was not able to get to the screening tonight to meet him to see it, but he was able to watch the new John Boyega film, Detroit. Lucas had actually told me ahead of time that this could be potentially Oscar worthy. I did not believe him necessarily, and I didn't know if I was ready for the film based off the first trailer. So what you're going to be getting is Lucas's authentic reaction and his assessed review of this film. And just so y'all can understand, Lucas looks at 3 times more movies than I watch. So he knows his stuff, so you ain't got to worry about anything like that. So anybody that has any viewer questions, I'll reiterate that to Lucas after he's talked about this film. So, Lucas, you have the stage. What did you think about Detroit?
Man, I haven't seen a film as powerful and as poignant as Detroit in maybe 10 to 15 years. I mean, for the film to be based on the 1967 riots in Detroit, the 12th Street riots in Detroit, and for it to feel like it belongs in 2017.
Mm.
Like the same issues of police brutality, police officers stepping over the line, um, the suppression of black people. It,
Mm.
it 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 all fit perfectly with 2017, which while I'm watching the movie is what made me so emotional because normally when you see films based in the 60s during that time period, you expect the violence against black people, you expect the things that police do, but for it to be over 50 years later and for me to be watching this movie and be like, like this is going on now. Like there's no difference between the two. I was expecting a great movie. Catherine Bigelow to me is the best director in Hollywood.
Wow.
So like I was expecting a great movie. That's all she really produces is great movies, possibly besides Point Break. But Point Break was still a great movie, the original one, not the horrible remake.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. True.
you were expecting something powerful from her, but I didn't expect this
That's
at
right.
all.
Because she directed The Hurt Locker, Zero Dark 30, Strange Days. Correct.
Yes, and
Wow.
it, man, the intensity that's built upon the movie, especially I read up on it. I knew about it from when I was little, and I read about it. I remember reading about it when I was like 9 or 10, so I knew about it. And when I heard the movie was coming out, I said, okay, that could be really interesting because that's something no one's ever touched on is that story. And I'm not going to say the mistake. At first, I thought it was a mistake that I read up on the riots again right before seeing the movie because I wanted to prepare myself for it. I like knowing the outcome of things because I didn't want to be as shocked as the rest of the audience was that just saw this film.
Yeah.
And I can say, as much as I thought I prepared myself for it, I didn't come close.
Wow.
Like it, it caught me. It had me emotional during a film, and I don't get emotional during films. I'm
You
great
don't.
at separating it. I can always find the humor in things. I couldn't find the humor in this movie. All I did was like, I want to say for uh, it's a segment of the film. I'm not trying to give away the film at all, but it's a segment of the film that lasts for about an hour. That could be the most riveting hour I've ever seen filmed. Like,
Wait,
like,
what?
yes, like my God, it is. Again, you read up on it, so you know the outcome, you know what's going to happen. But man, between the directions, the shots, the oh my God, everything was amazing of it. And she built the suspense perfectly. And it's hard to do when you know exactly what's going to happen to do that, but she made it amazing. If
Wow.
I was talking about the performances, uh, I'm because my mind is scattered brained right now. But so I'm gonna name like Anthony Mackie, who is not in the movie for a big amount of time, but his performance is powerful. Like, I'm not gonna say Oscar worthy powerful, but if his name ever gets brought up in it, I can say, okay, I see why.
Hmm.
He was it was the strong but not defiant black man, and he played the role perfectly. John Boyega, I think I'm saying the guy's name right.
Yeah.
Uh, he reminded me a lot of Denzel Washington in this movie. I don't necessarily know if that's a good thing or a bad
I
thing.
was about to say you kind of like have
Because
this interesting negativity when it comes to certain stereotypes
exactly,
of, you
but
know.
he reminded me of Denzel Washington in Fences. And when I say Denzel Washington in
Oh.
Fences, I'm not even talking about the movie. I saw the play with him and Viola Davis on Broadway,
Mhm.
and I felt it was so powerful when I saw the play. That's why the movie was a little bit of a letdown to me. John Boyega's performance was as powerful as when I saw Denzel Washington in Fences, and
Wow.
it was a subdued performance. He didn't have to do a lot. It wasn't a lot of lines he said. It's just the way he carried himself. He was the ray of hope for black people when they go see this movie. Even
Hmm.
though when you get to the point and you see what happened to him as everything advances, it's heartbreaking. But during the film, he was the ray of hope. And then you have Will Poulter. I think I'm saying the kid's name right.
Yeah, he was the one that was in that movie when he was a kid. It was like the
Yeah,
son of Rambo or something like that.
exactly. You will leave the theater hating him, and
Wow.
I mean hating every part of him. But I'll be damned if I have not seen a performance as good this year as he put on in this movie.
Really?
I've not seen a performance close to being as good as he is in this film. And I think it's hard for, again, I remember him from a lot of nice guy roles. So it's really hard to turn that switch off to make me hate, like literally, I don't like him at this point. I couldn't, I'm gonna need a
Wow.
couple of weeks before I'm allowed to see him play another character. And
Wow.
to me, that's a testament of how good he was in this movie. Like, I
Mm.
remember when I was reading up on it beforehand, I came across an article that stated that while he was filming the scenes, whenever they would take a break, a cut from the action of filming, he would go up and hug his co-stars and apologize to them because of the
Wow.
things he had to say and what he had to do. And beforehand, if you read something like that, you're like, well, you know, this is something that maybe the studio put out to make you anticipate the film more. As you're
Mhm.
watching it, you're like, no, I fully understand. He was relentless in this film. And it's still an ensemble film. It's not where you're gonna find a, a lead performance. He's as close, I believe, as a lead performance as you get in this film. There's another guy. Again, I haven't done the research I normally do for roles of this and for films like this. He plays a character named Larry Cleveland. It's a, I want to say, middle-aged black actor who I've never seen him in anything else, but he was great in this movie. Like, I mean, John Boyega, who I think because of his face and his name, he gets more attention. The kid who played the other character outacted him in this film. Matter of fact, I think a couple people did, which again speaks on the point that I said he was great in this film, and I'm naming other great performances in this film.
Mm.
It blew me away. It completely blew me away.
So, okay. And I feel like this is an interview, and this is getting me all like enticed and excited, but at the same time dreading seeing it from an emotional standpoint. So based on what you know from the history, you would say this is the best accurate way of telling it that they could do.
Yes.
Okay.
And at when they do the end of the film, when they give you the words of the film and everything of that nature, they're explaining that, in all honesty, there's not a lot of history based on this event. A lot of
Mm.
it has been lost or wiped out.
Wow.
So they dramatize some of it, but they dramatize it off of speaking to people who were there, the
Mm.
eyewitness testimony. So they basically letting you know, like, law enforcement of that era may say something different, but we base this off of interviews we did with people that were there. so they can allow us to know what happened. And it's just one of those horrible things during that period that a lot of people know absolutely nothing about. And I think they framed it around the riots, but it really centered on the massacre that happened at that motel. But even when they framed it around the riots and you see what happened and how black people as a community, they uprised against police brutality, but they did it in a way where they destroyed their own communities. It's it man. Again, I'm really speechless when I'm thinking about a film, but this film really got me.
Dang. And just to add context to that, you guys, I've seen this man look at movies that, most people would be like, "Oh, that was sick. Oh, I can't believe that." I think we looked at the Neon Demon, and like Lucas was just like, it was interesting. So for me, I am like caught up with the fact that Lucas is really, emotionally perplexed by this and engaged by it. So you've already talked about the performances. You've already said that the story is really good. What about, I guess, the cinematography and the way they were able to capture specific sequences without going into detail?
Especially for the riot scenes, she shot it, and her cinematographer, who I don't know, must have done a great job because it made you feel like you was right there with the people as they're protesting, destroying property. You felt like you was right there with them. It,
Wow.
it, it, it was amazing. The shots in the hotel, which I think could be the most difficult thing to shoot because majority of this movie happens on one set piece. And it's extremely difficult when you do that in a film for the intensity and for the shots to be beautiful. At times, though tragic, the shots were beautiful.
Wow.
Like it again, normally I give myself a little bit of time to digest things and I can, really in detail explain what I just saw, but this was just one of them where I'm just perplexed. And I'm like, man, what my fear is how are people going to react to seeing this movie?
Mm.
Because again, in today's climate, with everything that's going on in this world, if I was a young black male and I was to see this movie, um, my reaction may not be positive when I leave the theater. I think at
Yeah.
this point, me being in my 30s, I'm more mature. I can handle it, digest it, and then like deal with it. But if I was more emotional, yeah, this film could really cause problems.
Mm.
Because if you're seeing again in the time that we're in now, and you see everything that's going on, we protest and everything because you feel the injustice even if it doesn't happen to you. But in this film, they got beyond the point of just protesting. They had one scene in particular. Again, it's not giving anything away because it's not. It's a poignant scene for me, but it's not. Has nothing to do with the plot, subplot, anything in the film. Where you have a black congressman standing on the car telling the people, you know, we can fight, but don't destroy your own neighborhoods. Like we can protest, and one of the people in the crowd say, "We're done protesting. At this point, we got to fight back, no matter what."
Mm.
That hearing something like that, like this brought me to 2017 and said,
Yeah.
"Wow, what?" Again, if you a couple years ago saw the riots between Baltimore, Ferguson, all of those places, and you wondered like, how did we get there? It's stuff like that that gets you there,
Yeah.
so you fully understand it. And again, she captured it. It's again, I'm gonna say this, and I don't want to come across as racist because again, I'm focusing on the black community on this film because I think those are the ones who are going to get the most impact from this film, especially since black people have a tendency to say people of another race cannot tell our stories properly.
Mm.
And this is the possibly the first or maybe the second time because I thought Steven Spielberg did a great job with The Color Purple,
Yeah, he
where
did.
the story is explained beautifully. Like I could care less who directed, I care less what color it was. She captured everything. Like again, I've never been to an end of a screening No matter how like heinous some of the things happen, like the crowd, if it's a good movie, they will get up, applaud, and everything. This crowd walked out in silence.
Dang.
Like they were stunned. And no one was stunned as it being a bad movie. They was just like, man, I can't clap for this. Like, I can't. They were just like, no, it's too much. I can't do that for this film. Again, that's the testament of Miss Bigelow and her team and how great of a film this is.
Wow. Okay. So I guess my final two questions are this. Oscar contender. You said it initially. What do you think about Oscars? What does it look like for this film? And then on top of that, what would you rate this film? Second.
I would say for the Oscars, this is the first lock for Best Picture. Like this is the one where you can
Wow.
lock it in. It's guaranteed. I mean, Catherine Bigelow, unfortunately because of the bias because she's a woman, I can't say you can lock her in for Best Director. Should you? Of course. Like it's amazing, but I've also saw her not get nominated for Best Director for Zero Dark 30, and there was absolutely no reason why she wasn't supposed to get nominated for
I
Best
remember
Director.
that. I remember that.
Now, if they want to rebound, it's Best Original Screenplay because they didn't adapt it from anything. Uh, Director, Picture, Will Pointer for Polar. I know I'm saying the kid's name wrong for Best Supporting Actor because he's amazing in it. I mean, anyone who saw Dunkirk,
Hmm.
like just last week, that was almost like the penciled in best movie of the year to most people.
Yeah.
Within a week, that should change. By the time Detroit drops, I mean, not along with the scores that's already out there from it being 100% on Rotten Tomato to it being, I think, at 88% on Metacritic right now. Beyond just the reviews of it, this is going to be something that the public is going to push even harder. It's
Mm.
clearly not a film that's going to make a lot of money in the box office, so I worry about how it will carry over. Meaning, you release a movie in August, it's going to be hard for around December for people to remember it. It happens, and this movie may be powerful enough to pull it off. I'm praying it is powerful enough to pull it off, but if it got lost in the dust from films that don't come close to it, it wouldn't surprise me.
Mm.
And my rating is a 10. Like, this is a perfect movie.
Wow.
Like, I couldn't find anything wrong with it. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't find anything wrong with it. And I rate nothing that high. I've never seen a film that I thought was completely like it, everything was great.
Wow. Dang. I guess I don't have anything else. Let me take it off of the whatchamacallit.
Hey man,
Um,
that's very weird because normally we go to screenings and I can always like it's very rare that I even say a movie is good.
yeah.
It's very rare that I say a movie is good. This is not a summer film. Oh man, I wish they would have dropped this in like November. It'd have been perfect because this would have rolled away to easily her second best director and best picture
I think that
if they would have released it then.
part of the thing about November though is just so many big blockbusters it could get lost in the sauce. And that's one of the things I'm thinking about this movie is like how many people are actually gonna go out and see this? Like I feel like the word of mouth is gonna have to be pushed a little bit hard because if you hadn't have told me everything you told me, I probably wouldn't have even like, I don't know, kind of thing. I worry about that from just not even like African American community, but just the general audience. Like if they're actually going to really legit to commit to seeing this. If their marketing is good enough, I hope it does. But I can see that November, like there's so many different things that are coming out, man. And I feel like it would get lost in the sauce if they would have done that.
Yeah, but it's I think it's a good enough film that it would have stuck out amongst all the Oscar contenders that get dropped. But besides Zero Dark 30, it kind of fits the pattern for her with the Hurt Locker. The Hurt Locker came out, I think, in May,
Yeah.
the year it came out. It wave all the way, and I'm thinking she leaving like we can do the same thing with Detroit. There's no need to um, release it when everyone else releases their Oscar contenders, because if we could get this in people's heads, they won't forget it. It's one of those films. Once you see it, it's gonna stick with you. And then when you compare it to the day and the times that we're in now, the performances, like just the breakdown, or how tragedy can break people down, like, or ruin your life. Like, again, I can't go into too much detail because I still want people to see it. I don't want to give away the plot of it because it still has a plot to it, even though it's based on a true story. But it really shows you how tragedy affects and breaks down everyone. But it's not 100% negative, which is something else I really did appreciate, because in that time period, it's easy to paint every cop like it is now as bad, but that's not the case. There are bad cops, there are good cops, and this story shows you both sides of it. It's just that the bad is so bad that it overshadows the good that happens.
Yeah, and I think that's right now. Like, I mean, as many times you see videos of like cops doing stuff in the community, other people going and being helped by cops in real dangerous situations. It's like negativity is always going to be the thing that's going to be the catching of the eye, and it's going to make people weary. Like, you can't trust what you don't know, and that's on both sides. Man, this is actually really dope. Thanks for doing this, Lucas. Man, I don't know what else to really kind of say.
If you can, anybody who can, go see Detroit. Go see it when it comes out. Again, this is my opinion. It could be a little biased, not because of Captain Bigelow. I think it carried more weight for me, my profession. I'm in a law enforcement profession. So, like, everything in general, it just carried a lot of weight for me. So it may not have that same effect on you, or it may do, or you may connect with a different part of the film that I didn't connect with, which would be awesome and great. This is one of those films where hopefully it gets support. Support good films, basically. You can watch a Transformers film, you can support this.
True. And it's funny because I'm sitting here looking at some of the Rotten Tomatoes. All of them are completely, fresh, but all of them are from different points of view. I think the last question I'm going to ask you is, how do you think people are going to tackle these reviews of Detroit? Because, like, when the Get Out came out, everybody was kind of like, it's good, it's great, but they didn't, they couldn't sit there and immerse themselves into why. You know what I'm trying to say? And I'm curious to see from your perspective how people are going to honestly review this from whatever denomination they are, whatever race they are.
I think it'll be with the effects of everything that's going on today. Because that's what it feels so poignant with everything that's going on today. And I don't believe that's just that's a subject that only Black people focus on. I believe as a country we focus on that. We focus on police brutality. We focus on the corruption that's in our justice system, and I think that's how most people are going to tackle it. Even the reviewers, I think this is a situation where most of their reviews are going to point back to, for this to be 50 years ago and we're still going through the same things. Because you don't have to be Black to identify with wrongdoing.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with your race. That's your moral compass. And to me, we're in a world where most people know when they see wrong. And I think that's how reviewers are going to tackle this film. Because, it's the obvious angle to do it from.
Yeah.
You can attempt to delve deeper into it, but I don't think most people will.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I was exactly thinking the same thing. Like, I'm gonna be curious to see like the Chris Duckmans, the Jeremy Johns, to see if they'll even try to attempt to go that route. But I think you're absolutely right. I think there's only one specific way of doing it like this. But yeah. Well, you guys, this is Lucas. Lucas, where can they follow you at? Because I don't know if they can follow you anywhere.
Oh, yeah, not when we get everything off the ground. We're not there yet. This was, and normally, anybody who's saying this, normally, can't really see me. And I'm normally a lot funnier than this, but I just can't be. Like, I'm going home, I'm watching somebody's Disney film. I need a comedy. It may be an Adam Sandler movie. I gotta get this off my head because I can't have this weight before going to bed.
I would recommend some Rick and Morty if you hadn't seen it, but that's another day. But yeah. So you guys, hopefully y'all enjoyed that. The quote that I actually put for you for this review, Lucas, was one word: emotional. So hopefully that is satisfactory for you.
Definitely.
So we're gonna go off the broadcast, and I'm gonna talk to Lucas a little bit more in depth and more explicitly. So hopefully y'all enjoyed this review. Keep it locked. JVS, we ain't gonna stop, and definitely check out Lucas pretty soon. His new YouTube channel is coming up. All right, peace, guys.